put out a poll asking what sample video to make next, and you voted for 80s hip hop. So that's what we're going to have a look at today. 80s for me, some amazing samples done then. Some absolutely amazing hip hop tracks came out in the 80s. NWA, Public Enemy, EPMD, Gangstar, just to name a few of them. Reminder again, 5 years since I dropped my very first album out on Bandcamp, so I'm giving that first album away for free for a limited period. There's a link in description so you can download that, keep that album forever. 6 albums out in total, give the others a check whilst you're on there. So let's jump in, let's see what the first track is.
Ready, set,
the JBs, James Brown's group. Bobby Bird, Fred Wesley were in them. Absolutely amazing music. That was one of the very first singles as well. They did one more before that called These Are the JBs, and then that one was released in 70. Public Enemy track as well. What a great track that is. They were a big fan of sampling James Brown because you've got the James Brown funky drummer beat over the top of it, those drums. I just like the way they've taken that horn part and just looped that, made that into the whole track. Classic 80s track for me, that one. Off the second album, Takes a Nation of Millions to Hold Us Back. Let's see what the next one is. AC/DC, Australian band. They formed in the mid-70s, done over 40 albums, still going today. Very, very successful group. LL Cool J track, or Ladies Love Cool James, produced by Rick Rubin. Now, he was pretty young himself when he actually produced that. 22 years old he was. Founder of Def Jam label, along with Russell Simmons. Very big on mixing rock with hip-hop. Just like the way he's taken that one stab, hitched it right up, and just used that as the whole form for that LL track. Rock the Bells, very, very iconic 80s track for me. If I was doing an 80s mixtape, I would definitely have to include that on it. Great track.
Rappers stepping to me, they wanna get some, but I'm the Kane, so yo, you know the outcome. Another victory, they can't get with me.
The Emotions originally went by the name Hutch Stereos. That's off the second album, which was produced by David Porter and Isaac Hayes. Very, very heavily sampled that track, well over 100 times. But for me, this is the most iconic use of that sample. The Big Daddy Kane, Ain't No Half Stepping. Absolutely great track, that one. Big Daddy Kane is such an amazing MC. And that particular track, for me, has been used in lots and lots of DJ battles. So many lines on that have been used. Great, great track. So let's see what the next one is.
Listen closely, so your attention's undivided. Many in the past have tried to do what I did.
Marley Marl, The Symphony. That track is often considered the best posse cut of all time. Don't know what you think. Leave a comment. Leave your feedback, see what your opinion is. I'm interested to hear. But Marley Marl with the Juice Crew. So that's Big Daddy Kane, Master Ace, Craig G, and Cool G Rap. And it's the Master Ace verse you just heard there and seen him on that video. Marley Marl, for me, produced some of the biggest tracks in the 80s. You've just heard 2 back to back there, the Big Daddy Kane one and then this one. Yeah, absolutely amazing track, that one. One of my favourites. Great Bob James sample there. So not only is Bob James one of the most ever sampled artists, that Nautilus track is one of the most sampled tracks ever as well. So many different parts of that have been used in hip hop music. Not even just hip hop, loads of different genres have used it as well. So the name Nautilus is actually named after a nuclear sub, the USS Nautilus. So that's off Bob James's first album. If you've not listened to that first album, I would heavily recommend you have a listen to it. You will be just listening through and just pick up on so many different parts of the tracks that have been used in hip hop music. Absolutely iconic album, that one.
Straight out of Compton is a crazy brother named Ice Cube from the stupid dope gang with an attitude.
Amen Brother by the Winstons, the most sampled drum break in history. Thousands and thousands of times that drum break has been used. So many hip hop tracks, drum and bass, other genres as well. David Bowie has even used it. Sad thing is, the drummer, Gregory Coleman, apart from initial sales, the money from that, he never got any royalties of any kind for any of the samples that were taken from it. And he actually died homeless, completely broke in 2006. So the NWA track is just one of thousands and thousands that have actually used that drum break. It's probably just one of the most well-known uses of it. Straight out of Compton, standout track from the album of the same name.
This here's a jam for all the fellas. Try to do what those ladies tell us. Get shot down cause you're overzealous.
Ballin' Jack, which were a rock group from Seattle. They only released a few albums in the 70s, not done anything else since then. Not that well sampled. I know definitely Gangstar have sampled from that same album. Young MC as well. He was actually born in London and then left London age 3 and then eventually ended up in Queens in New York. That Bust a Move track as well. Pretty successful, and it actually earned him a Grammy for Best Rap Performance. Just a really upbeat, sort of funky hip hop track from the 80s. So let's see what the next track is.
We're gonna prove to the world that we're for real. We're gonna prove to everybody we know the real deal. We got
Taste of Honey with Rescue Me. Quite well sampled as well. Positive K, I Got a Man, used exactly the same sample on their track. Funky 4+1, signed to Sugar Hill. Did a few singles in the 80s, nothing since. They were the first rap group ever to appear live on TV. So Saturday Night Live back in 81, hosted by Debbie Harry from Blondie. They appeared on there, the very first rap group. Not that it did them much good for their career, because where are they now, but...
I was a fiend before I became a teen. I melted microphones instead of cones of ice cream. Music.
Average White Band with Schoolboy Crush. Band from Scotland. Many different members. They've been sampled a huge amount of time in hip hop, and that particular track has also been used a lot. Halftime by Nas off his Illmatic album is probably another very famous use from there. Drums have been used a lot, and also other parts of the track. Eric B and Rakim, Microphone Fiend, one of many tracks that they put out in the 80s and produced by Eric B and Rakim as well. Let's see what's next up. Kraftwerk from Germany, one of the pioneers of electronic music using synths and drum machines. They've been sampled so many times as well, various different genres, electro, hip-hop, house music, various different ones. Planet Rock isn't a direct sample, it's been replayed to sound like the original, but still classed as an interpolation or a replayed sample. Real upbeat track, the Afrika Bambaataa one. Standout track from the 80s for sure.
rocking it, yes he is rocking it. Tito's rocking it, yes he is rocking it. Mike C rocking it, yes he is rocking it.
Another sample from Kraftwerk, and another one that's been replayed to sound like the original, not a direct sample from the record. Fearless 4 did quite a few singles in the early mid-80s, split up, and then for some reason in 94 came back together, put one album out, and then that was it. I do like that Rockin' It track though, very upbeat, my kind of stuff from the 80s, that one definitely. Produced by Bobby Robinson, so although he produced a lot of hip hop in the early days, Grandmaster Flash, Spoonie G and people like that, he actually started off as a producer in the late 50s and into the 60s, producing a lot of soul records, so quite a change in what his production style was. So let's see what the next track is.
Vision, dreams of passion.
Liquid Liquid with Cavern, probably best known for that sample. Not a direct sample again, it's another one that's been replayed, so classed as an interpolation or replayed sample. Great 80s track, that one. Anti-drugs record, White Lines. Melle Mel was also the first person to use the word MC as a rapper, so a bit of a pioneer. If you watch the actual video, it's a mixture of really upbeat and also some pretty grim drug taking, so definitely more of an adult orientated video. Standout track from the 80s, that one.
Pick up on the back and try love and devotion.
Foster Silvers, who was a member of the family group The Silvers, 7 different family members in that group. Foster put that track out when they were 10, 11 years old. Similar way to the Jacksons and Michael Jackson and his solo career. Obviously not had anything like the success of Michael Jackson, but he did put quite a few albums out on his own. It's been sampled quite a few times, that particular track as well. Grandmaster Flash used it, and it's been used by various other people.
I wanna rock right now. I'm raw bass and I came to get down. I'm not internationally known, but
Lynn Collins, Think About It. Very heavily sampled track again. Been used a few thousand times, that, definitely. The drums, the vocals, various different parts of that particular track. Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock, great track as well. One, I really like getting 2 copies of it on the turntables, ripping it up. There's a part in it where it says 1, 2, 3, getting loose now. I like ripping that up, changing it to 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, going through it, having a mess around with it. So I might have to get on the turntables in a bit and have another go at it. Great track anyway. Let's see what the next one is.
yes, y'all are to the like beating. You could either dance or just have a seat and listen to the way and what I am displaying.
Steve Miller Band put out over 40 different albums. Biz Markie track as well with TJ Swan. He was part of the Juice Crew All-Stars. Another great 80s track produced again by Marley Marl. And Biz Markie always put a smile on my face. He was just such a funny guy. And some of his videos were just crazy with him dressing up and that. Sadly missed.
To me, baby. Oh, sexy lady. To me, baby. Oh, to me, baby.
Parliament, which is George Clinton's group, heavily sampled in hip-hop as well. And Digital Underground with a Humpty Dance. Such a crazy track that was. So Shock G on the vocals, under his alias for that, Humpty Hump. Very mad video. And if you watch that whole video through, You might notice a pretty young looking Tupac on there as well in the background. So give it a check, see if you can spot him.
Red bone booties, I'm out to wag. Stick up kids is out to tag. Spring again, and I'm feeling fine.
Another sample from Parliament. As I said, they've been used many different times. Nice and smooth track. So although it is a loop, they've taken the second part first and then use an earlier part to chop it together and make it into a loop. Works well for me. Also the line on that, Stick Up Kids is out to tax, sampled, scratched in by Gangstar on Just to Get a Rep. Another great track. So Nice and Smooth consisted of Greg Nice and Smooth B, who also worked with Gangstar on Dwick.
Have you ever met a girl that you tried to date, but a year to make love she wanted you to wait? Let me tell you a story of my situation. I was you start what I need, but you say he just a friend.
Another sample that's been replayed, so not directly from the original. Similar lyrics, similar melody, great Biz Markie track, and a really good example of how mad Biz Markie was. Really over the top. The costume he's got on, everything, just really makes me laugh. Great 80s track by him. So let's see what the next one is. Funkadelic there, another one of George Clinton's groups that heavily sampled. De La Soul track, one of their early great tracks, that one definitely. And they finally cleared all the samples and are on streaming services. So you can now look up that track on Spotify and you'll be able to listen to it. Produced by Prince Paul, great producer, was in Stetsasonic, he was in the Gravediggers with the RZA. He was also in Handsome Boy Modelling School. Produced some really great tracks, and that's just another example.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the honey drippers in the house tonight.
Milk is chillin', Giz is chillin'. What more can I say? Top billin', that's what we get. Got it good.
The Honey Drippers with those iconic drums there, they have been sampled a few hundred times as well. Very famous drums those. Audio 2 as well. I just like the way they've chopped those drums up, so they've not just used it as a straight up loop, chopped it, rearranged them, made it their own. Funny thing is, that particular track by Audio 2, the Top Billing, that has since been sampled itself hundreds of times. 50 Cent, I Got Money. The main hook of the track is that particular line off the Top Billing track. So another classic 80s hip hop track there. Rhythm Heritage sample. They did a lot of cover versions of theme songs, but I think that theme from SWAT was the most successful one that they did. Another track by LL Cool J. There's another sample that was used on that, so let's have a listen to the second sample.
Quite like I can. I take a muscle bound man and put his face in the sand. Not the last mafioso, I'm a MC cop.
Courageous Cat and Minnie Mouse theme. Obviously replayed, it's not directly sampled off that, but the bass line has been copied to sound the same. Works really well with that. LL in the video as well with his classic Kangol outfit on. Typical of him in the 80s. And another great track. Let's check the next one.
homeboys don't mean to bust your bubble, but girls of the world ain't nothing but trouble.
Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, Girls Ain't Nothing But Trouble. That was their very first single. There was also a follow-up to it featuring a female MC, also from Philly, went by the name Ice Cream Tea, and that was called Guys Ain't Nothing But Trouble. Used the same sample, almost like a remix of it. It's on YouTube, have a listen to it if you want. But yeah, sampling from a big TV show, I Dream of Jeannie, the theme music from that. Early hip-hop track from that duo, classic 80s. So that's it, that's the end of the video. This is just a real small selection of some great samples from 80s hip-hop music. There are so many more. Some I've shown in other videos, I didn't want to repeat them again. So if you like the video, leave a like, drop a comment, subscribe to see more, download my album off Bandcamp, and thanks for watching.